Introductions.
Welcome to Texas Tea. I want to say this is my second episode. Just depends on how we play it, so maybe the third. But please like and subscribe if you enjoy my conversations and my cooking demos. Today I have the lovely, I always say truth teller, journalist. She wears so many things, podcaster. She also is a dope cook. So this is Marlissa here.
I'm a cook.
Oh yeah, we cooked.
Tell me something.
We cooked. She had all the right materials.
I do all right.
She did. Well, she had all the right materials. When I went in there, again, if you have to see the other part of this podcast, the video, she had everything I needed. It was my home, and it's still my home.
Yes.
I thought about it the whole week when I was in my house today. Cooking, doing my demo, I was like, I could be at her house. Well, really my house right now.
That's it.
And it's already decorated and stuff like that. My house is just...
There's stuff there already.
Whatever IKEA had, I just did the whole section. All that, no thought. Because, everybody, when my sister named your house, and my sister was like, I love that wood at the top. I was like, I ain't never noticed that.
Girl.
I done been up her house a gazillion times.
That house is so eclectic. People come in and they miss...
And I was like... But I never noticed that. I was like, I've never looked up.
Okay, y'all. Y'all can just go get you some pine slats real quick. Just tack them up on the wall. Use some liquid nail and a nail gun. And boom, you got a room that looks like a spa, a sauna. So I have it in my front room, and then I actually have it in my master bath, which I'm not sure you've seen.
No.
But it's in my master bathroom as well.
It's okay. We could, when we get the
You'll be back over
I said right.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that some things I don't notice. The first thing I notice in someone's house is always their refrigerator and what they got in it. And I know I shouldn't be that way, but I always do that because it lets me know, are you cooking? Are you eating? What's your life like?
Let me tell you, one thing I had in there when she came over, y'all, was eggs, which means God has been good to me because the way these eggs is hitting
But
right
they're dropping, y'all. They're 60. I told you I always get 60. I just get 60. I don't even play around with it. But I got 60 and they were 19 instead of 25. Let them go back to 11 where they originally were.
Okay.
That's where they were for 60. We're 11, right at 11.98. And I want them to go back there and 1 dozen eggs to be like 119.
That would be great.
Yeah, I just feel like, but speaking of that, okay, the issue at hand, okay, Marlissa is for the people, for us. Not finna say FUBU. I'm not finna do that.
They making a comeback. I was just
gonna say for us by us, but they are. And Baby Fat trying to come back too, but I ain't like that back in the day.
Baby Fat.
Yeah, I saw her. She had it posed with her with the velour. They had like a
they bringing velour back. What is this?
It was something like it looked velourish. So I'm just saying,
because are the colors still crazy, like hot pink?
Yeah, she had on navy, and her daughter had on hot pink. But I think that why they're coming back is because of all this 90s stuff, like Power showing the 90s. 90s come back in.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like, hey, if we give it one more shot, we can do this again. But
girl, I got a bucket hat and a fanny pack at my house. I know stuff is coming back.
Because
remember they used to clown you if you wore a fanny pack after a certain point.
Yes.
Now they back in.
It's back in the day, I used to love them fanny packs. And I still love fanny. I'm a fanny pack wearer. I don't care, you can talk about me. But I don't like wearing purses. I don't like anything hanging.
It's perfect for traveling.
And I'm ADD and I'll lose stuff. And I'll come back and be like, where my purse at? I had a purse. So that is no here or there. But we're talking about eggs. And this is a lot of Black restaurants are booming in life, and they're popping up everywhere, which is dope and amazing. But with Turkey, did you see the thing about Turkey Hut owing $1.3 million because they hadn't paid their bill for their turkeys? Yeah, they're about to shut them down.
Wait, they got turkeys on loan?
Yeah. Well, what happens is in food, it's a credit.
Okay.
So when I order food and I have a restaurant and I say, hey, I'm going to need this many chickens, you have 30 days to pay for it. It's a credit.
So it's accounts payable type of thing. Okay,
yeah.
got it.
So and it's not, and people don't understand that you don't pay until the food actually gets to your house. Now they did something that's weird because I know that I have done it. And I've been not pay my bill. Let me rephrase it. I pay my bills. But I was working for a district that didn't pay the bills.
Okay.
And what happened was they let us keep getting food till it was a certain amount. It was a cap, like, hey, y'all owe this much.
Kind of like America's debt ceiling.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Like, hey, this is it.
Got
this
it.
is it. You know,
this far as you go.
This far as you go.
Okay.
And so they got up to $84,000. But the weirdest thing is that they signed a thing to pay 1.5% extra if they were late. And I'm like, if you knew you couldn't pay it, why would you? And you're the hottest spot right now in Houston.
This is the Houston one.
Yeah, the Houston one.
Like, don't the line be around the corner and
Yes,
stuff?
no,
Yeah.
yes, they're making money, but I just feel like you didn't pay your bill. And U.S. Foods is a tremendous, big food supplier.
Mhm.
And what they do is, what people don't know is when you don't pay your food bill, they don't just shut you down. They make sure the other people know, hey, they don't pay their bills.
So you get blackballed.
You get
kinda.
blackballed.
Wow.
So I'm just like, they're not going to survive without it. And people were saying, you know, one of my friends had posted on Facebook. That's how I saw it. She was like, well, I think it's sad because the black person can't make it and they can't, how'd they let them go there for? I'm like, it's food. And the sad part is 84,000, y'all, was not a year. That was about 3 to 4 months because they're ordering weekly. They're doing these tours.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the price of eggs are high because of an illness. That is not fake. People
that
put
avian flu.
Yes, the avian flu. No, because it also killed 1 million turkeys. If you didn't notice, turkeys were not like usually spend $100 get one free.
That's right.
It was like $279 for $239 cheap for a turkey because they were out. So just think about it. They're buying turkey legs at a huge quantity, and they had already told us as because I get the stuff from the U.S. Foods and Benny Keith's. They sent us an email and said that I could not order any turkeys until after March.
Okay.
And so, and I'm like, and we had already had a discussion with chefs like, what are they doing at these places? Because turkey is, y'all don't know, is a seasonal meat. You don't find turkey all year.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing was, this is not the second time. This is the second time I heard it. It was a turkey leg hut in I don't want to say the name, but it was in the Metroplex. But they weren't paying their bill either.
In the DFW Metroplex?
DFW.
Okay.
It was one that it was in Cedar Hill, and they wasn't paying their bill.
Okay.
And their ideology was, if they didn't make any money, they didn't pay the rent. They didn't pay the rent because I knew the person who owned the building. They didn't pay the rent because they said they would have no profit. And I'm like, wait, what? And then my friend was like, you don't understand. They don't want us down. And I think my point to you is that I know that we are definitely oppressed people, but do we draw the line somewhere where it's like, this is your business. This has nothing to do with them folks. Mm-hmm. This is something that you should know going into that, I think, is it a fine line to say, this is something that we don't know as a culture, mm-hmm. And is it just you're wrong as a business person?
No, 100%. So I think we have to admit the lack of resources, right? When it comes to Black businesses, we mm-hmm. know that, we may not get funding. And if we do get funding, right. our interest rates are higher. Like we know this stuff. Yeah. A lot of times we get overtaxed on things simply because it is a Black owned business, and the folks that are loaning or lending or renting assume that, this may go under. So let me go on and tack a little bit more on top of, the loan or whatever. So, mm-hmm. so there is the systemic issue of that. And that's more than just a restaurant. Like your house could be the same way. Like we know for a fact that, our homes are undervalued. A lot of times mm-hmm. we get these subprime loans where, we have these ridiculous interest rates. Like all of that is a thing. But I think what I've seen, at least when it comes to a lot of Black, and I'm not going to say a lot, a faction of Black owned businesses, is that you can't tell anybody anything. So, for example, mm-hmm. If this is your first time opening a restaurant, it may be worth it to reach out to someone who has owned a restaurant before and say, hey, can you come consult and help me to understand the operations and how to make sure that, like, I'm meeting payroll, that I'm paying my bills, that, even if I'm not turning a profit for the first year, which anyone who runs a business knows that a lot of times it takes you at least 2 years to become profitable.
And in food service, it takes literally triple that. I mean, mm-hmm. like triple that time. Almost your first 5 years, you're in the red. Mm-hmm. You're just making ends meet to keep everything on. Yeah. And you're starting to make money. It almost has that club, not necessarily that club life, but about 7 years is when you really start making mad money and you can return in. Because a lot of it is because we already have an overhead, mm-hmm. which is food. And it is adjustable. It will change.
And your margin, from what I understand in the restaurant business, is fairly slim, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and then I guess what I looked at was, because that was my thing where last year, especially in COVID, a lot of my friendships, we broke up because of my ideology of running a business. I wasn't a restaurant consultant at that time, but I became one because it was so many people that I was like, look, you have a great product, but let me show you how to work it. You know what I'm saying? How to get it going. And my friends were just like, no, just support. And I'm like, I don't want to. We can't support anything that's bad. It'll never go big and go global. If it's already little, you're making small mistakes at the beginning, and it's only going to get bigger. And that's what I was telling. Sometimes we can move too fast. We get to the hype of everybody likes my dish to let me get a restaurant, and then my restaurant's packed, but I don't know how to handle the flow.
The operations are trash, and so I think you're right. I think in anything you're doing, whether it's, starting an IT business or like find someone that can help you operate that space, because you may be the most talented chef in the world. Right. But it does not mean that you're a great COO at running. Exactly. Like, logistics are a lot different than the artistry of food. And that's why artists have managers. When you really think about it, like when you look at singers and actors, like they have managers to handle the things that they don't have time to focus on. And so I do think it's twofold. It's the systemic piece that obviously like we've been fighting against as people of color, as women, as members of the LGBTQ, any disenfranchised group, right? We're fighting against that. But the other side, and especially in our community, it's everyone wants to be a chief and nobody wants to be an Indian. And it's like you can't tell anybody anything. I want to run it the way I want to run it. When you have this resource here that you could reach out to and say, hey, am I doing this the right way?
Right. And
am
I did
going about this the right way?
And it's so funny. I went to some restaurants and I called them and I said, hey, before the problem has got problematic, I was like, hey, I'm in here. The service, I've had your product at farmers market and now they're big. You have a restaurant and I said, it's great, but there's no service. I waited for an hour. I ended up having to go down the street. To I would say Massanim, but the other employer, America.
Who's
America, not Massanim, but the other
people down there.
The people down there had everything going. And my thing is, if I go out and I'm paying $60, I don't want a red cup. I want to be treated
unless that's the gimmick, right? Unless we all drinking out of red cups.
But
that's the thing.
But that's not the gimmick, you know. And I just said, I called them and contracted them, and they politely told me, hey, we got this under control, and I said, okay. And that's when I was looking. And then I started looking at it. I stopped and looked at the bigger picture. All these restaurants that are popping up that are Black, that are amazing. They have amazing concepts. They have either poor service or they don't know operations. Because when I told people, it was one restaurant somebody posted, they're out of fish for the day. And I said, that's not good. That's bad operation.
What time of day was it?
It was brunch. It was like 10. That's bad. That's what I'm saying. That's bad.
If that's
operations.
One of your staples, like why are you out?
And you're selling catfish and grits. That's one of your things, and it's okay. I think we're thriving and I think it's amazing, but I do think that we do need to be able to have that conversation. We should be able to talk to each other and say, hey, you know what? Like I called you when I started the podcast. I called you. I called my friend Octavius, but I called you first and said, hey, look at this podcast. Like, give me some idea. What do you think about this? I feel like because I know you have already done this, you know how this works, and you know how to do with all the things like with how the layout, all that stuff go together. And I feel like us as a people, we're so together but so separate.
Yeah, pride has a lot to do with it. I think there's also the mistrust of, oh, will somebody steal my idea? And we talked about that when we were at my house, right? Like, if you are a creative, your source is limitless. So if you give an idea away, if you give some type of, advice away, if you are truly a creative, you should be confident enough in your source of creativity that like, Tiffany can give me an idea and know that the next morning she's going to have 10 more. And she's not worried about helping a friend.
And it depends on what angle we're taking it as. You know what I'm saying? What angle we're like, basically our podcast is on the same street, but it's totally two different addresses. She has a podcast, I have a podcast, and we're both obviously we're on this podcast. But I mean, but we're sitting here. But when we were talking earlier, right before it started, you were saying like mine is just like that, but it's with food. It doesn't. You have a talent. And that's why I always tell people there's no one, anybody can take your recipe, but they can't make your sauce.
I read something the other day, and it just made it gave me joy to read it. It said a copycat can only go as far as an innovator has already been.
You're right.
And so when I look at, you know, people who copy, I've seen my stuff copied. I've literally seen my words elsewhere, and I'm like, damn. But I know for a fact that, like, my source is there, right? Like, I've had this my whole life, this thing that has rattled my mind my whole life. So I don't worry if I give something away, or I, you know, or someone steals, because all artists steal. I want to make that a point.
Exactly. And
all creatives steal.
I don't want to say it's stealing. Like, just
it's
like,
inspiration.
It's inspiration. Like, I'm gonna say, because me being a chef, there's no, you know, they've been making macaroni and cheese since literally the 1400s. And so, but at the same time, is I can take what your piece and make it my
build
own.
On top of it. Yep.
Yeah, and I can put my flavor, my history, my things in there. And I think that is the one part we are missing, is everybody's trying to be the chief and not be Indian. Just like we were talking about the
100%.
podcast. I don't do nothing. I come in here, do what I gotta do. I have a producer who knows everything, and I don't challenge him. If he say things don't work, then it don't work. If things do work, it's like, okay, great, thank you, God.
Because that's his lane.
That's his lane.
That's what he knows. Yeah.
And I feel like that's, if we will grow more, if we knew our lane, if we just stay in. That's why, you know, the biggest thing is when Snoop says, my favorite quote of all times is stay in your lane. It's no traffic there.
Yeah.
It's no, I don't have to bump into, I don't have to get, when you copycat, I think that's when you get like, how did she make that? Or how did she do that? How did she know? Who are her sources?
Yep.
You have a wall that you're gonna hit, because I can take the format of your show. I can go get another fine guy, Gabe, to go.
Okay, Gabe. Shout out to GS.
But if I get another guy, I can try to and get some news. But I don't have your contacts. I don't have your journalistic approach. I'm just sitting here doing something. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you're a chef, right? Like, that's your thing, and you've built your show around that. Yeah. I am a journalist. I'm a writer. I'm a commentator, and I've built my show around that.
But I'm saying, it's people who look at what you do, and they can say, oh, you know what? I can look at CNN and do just what they doing. She got a hot guy. She a hot girl. I can come here. I can be dope. And you know what I'm saying? People, copycats.
Thank you for calling us hot girls and hot guys, though. Come on.
I just, I can't just give love to Gabe, because I definitely do need somewhere to stay.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No, but I'm with you. I think, imagine this. Imagine someone opened a restaurant, right? And they opened it with other very talented people. You got an amazing chef, you have an amazing manager, you have an amazing, like logistics person, you have an amazing person that handles all things supply chain, and everyone has an equal vote as far as how this restaurant is run. I think what happens a lot of times in Black owned businesses, especially when they're starting out, is that there's like one person who is my way or bust. You can't tell them anything. You can't give them any of your opinions, any of your feedback.
Right, you can't.
Anything.
And me and you, if y'all look at, we really did some dope commentary on the actual video. We talked about actual restaurants and things like that. But with saying that, I'm going to flip it a little. I'm not going to play devil's advocate, but I'm going to say, like, okay, so with this Ed Reed thing, he came with the same sauce as Dion, but got totally treated different. I don't think he came with the same sauce.
I'm about to say.
I mean, but he is a pro Hall of Famer. I think if he didn't have me and my friend had this conversation, that there's two different type of, and I can say this to you because you're activist, you're a journalist, you keep it real. There is two types of Blacks. There's one that is blendable. There is one that society, I'm not saying not us, but society may say, oh, this guy is blendable. And then they have the
acceptable
other guy,
Negro.
Acceptable, yeah. And then they have the one that's like, And I just felt like Ed Reed had that look of, It's the rough hair, the wild hair at the top. His swagger is a little bit not as crisp as Dion. That's what I'm saying. So he didn't get the same. He didn't get. I'm not saying he was wrong for cussing, but whatever that the media was saying about it. But I didn't even know anything about it. Like I told you, I don't listen to the news. When my coworker was talking about it, I went and looked at him and said, before I even heard what he said, I said, no one's going to look at him because he has the scary Black man look.
Yeah, respectability politics is still a thing, and there are a lot of Black people who attempt to make themselves palatable to Middle America. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I spoke about the whole Deion Sanders thing, and my thing is, you shouldn't have sold us a dream if you were not going to see it through. If you were going to jump ship and go after the money, then, you know, you should have said that up front. Not that you were here and God told you to come here and this is your calling, only to leave. But I think that was
my only point with that is, I think that is the only point that he messed up on. I'm a true Christian. I don't believe that when he said that line, but I think he should just said, hey, you know what? No one likes to tell the truth, because the truth sometimes makes us humble our own self. If he would have said, hey, you know what, America, no one would give me no one in the Big 12 or the Big Pac-10 or whatever, Pac-12, whatever it is, would never give me a
head coaching job.
Yeah, so I went to where I could get one until I got them, and then left.
Say that. That's because we wouldn't have bought into the dream had he said that.
But we would have probably frown, but we'd have been like, okay.
It is at that point. That's your truth.
Yes, that's your truth.
But to make it about God called me here and I'm here to help this school and HBCUs only, and literally the conversation when Deion Sanders took that job, the conversations, at least amongst me and my friends, became shit. This is amazing, because what if we start funneling our best athletes into HBCUs because of what Deion Sanders is building at Jackson State?
But you
remember Mikey, one of the I think he was the top recruit of his class. He was talking about
HBCU, and now the top recruit is talking about Colorado.
There you go.
Already committed,
and that was the point. Had you actually had the best interest of these kids and the greater good, making HBCUs the powerhouse, because the thing is, it was going to take a little time for him to do what we thought he was doing.
But it would have took a little time, because the thing is, they need bigger
players. You got to
get
the cameras there. You got to get the money there. You got to get the fans there. But I promise you, had the top recruits of their classes start funneling into HBCUs, the cameras would have followed, because that's where the show is.
Now, would you say, but I also would say, to piggyback on that, is that what I saw in that some people, ever since COVID, and COVID was when sadly we got to see how with social media, the Floyd, all those murders, all that on camera. But then it's like this black boom, buy black. And then now everybody's like, man, pro black, buy this because it's black. But really and truly, when they get that bigger response, they're only doing it, even though they are black, they're only doing it for economic status. They're not.
Our God in this country is the almighty dollar. I don't care what anybody says. I think you're making your point. Like, yeah, buy black, but if someone has an opportunity to make money elsewhere,
but that's what I'm saying, they do, and that's what and that's. I was just saying, is it okay? I mean, everybody's mad at. I guess when I looked at it as, everybody's mad at Deion, but people do it every day.
But we expected him to be better because of how he sold it to us.
Okay.
When you come to me and say, God called me here, I'm here to help these kids, I'm here to make sure that the HBCU system gets some talent. Yeah. When you sell us that dream, something that we as a people didn't even know we had been yearning for a long time, when you sell it to us like that and then sell us out for money, which you said it wasn't about the money. You said God called you.
Right.
But all of a sudden you leave for money. Like, I looked at, and I had so many people like, well, you can't put that on one man. He put it on him. He said that this was the reason he was going to Jackson State. But nobody ever tasked him with that.
Will we say that he did not do it? And I'm not for either body. My thing is that I just looked at it as, I was looking at everybody's side, how everybody was arguing, because it was just like everybody was arguing with each other versus for months about it. And I was just like, and then I also look at other people who go from here. I started here, but now I can go be with these folks. I'm with these folks.
Let me tell you something. So I am one who absolutely stays in her bag, 100%, but I do not lay down my morals. Yeah. I do not lay down who I am for a check. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So for me, do I get after my bag? Hell yeah. Because things in America cost.
Right.
100%.
And I get it.
But if somebody asks me, hey, will you come on this show and denounce who Asada Shakur was or who, say, you can keep that fucking check. and I'm gonna go on back to my house and slang these blogs until the right opportunity comes around.
And they do that. People get lucrative deals come all the time. You just have to know. I think that's the biggest thing is your morally, where do you stand? And I look at it as, with my standpoint, that me in my situation with my partnership, I look at it as, one of my friends like, y'all should work it out. I'm like, no, I'm not necessarily just saying I'm directly in my bag, but I have morals. I have values. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to say, this is where we're going and this is how we can get here, or we need to stop this bus before we get any farther. And I just feel like with,
I don't want anything I do to hurt anyone else. Period. And if I look at something that someone has asked me to do and it's hurting someone, I'm going to turn it down. I'm not going to even lie. Like, I'm going to turn it down. Number one, I believe that everything I need in this world will be provided for me.
It will.
So I don't worry about a mischeck.
Yeah, exactly. But if you come up to the ideology is, I've been doing this lately, is what I put in is what I get out, and if I'm putting good things out in the universe, they're obviously going to come back to me. I've had a worry of, oh, well, this paycheck, is it coming or not? And then I stopped worrying about it and started just living my life. Then things start flowing. But I think the American mentality is more, gimme. Or when we see if we see any kind of mishap, let's stop that train wreck right now, right here. Just like this Christmas when Moore closed all their stores and didn't even tell their employees. That is like normal in America. It's like, that's not even a write-up, because it's just like, boom,
it's the way we do things.
I feel like a lot of people are jumping on that wave of black this. And I've seen it with my friends. They're like, oh, I'm doing this for black people, then next week it's like they've moved on. It's like, oh, wow.
But as black people, we also have to hold one another accountable. So the same way we were just talking about Tyree Nichols, right? And these 5 black officers that took his life. So, we were talking about it this morning online, and people were like, oh, well, is it black on black crime? No, this is about policing as an institution. And I am going to hold whoever is wrong accountable. I don't care what they look like. So as black people, I do think we need to hold each other accountable. Even in the restaurant business, you should be able to go up to one of your fellow chefs and say, hey, the food was great, but the service was it was to be desired.
Right. Well, it's to be continued. Let's talk about it. But and that's what happened when I was dating a guy, and I'm not gonna. I always call those. I'm not gonna say what I call those guys, but he's so woke. And I was having a bad day at work, and at that time, my boss was a black woman, and I would come home, and he'd be like, "Hey, how's your day?" And I was like, "Oh, it was a rough day. It was just bad because And he, and he was like, Was it a white lady?" And I was like, "No, it was a black woman." He was like, "That's crazy. That's wild. Like, that's weird." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's everyday life. People are people."
Yeah, regardless of color, some people are just assholes, y'all. Like in every culture, we got them. We got ain't shit people in every culture, every religion. Like,
it's always that one person is this close to getting the ass whooping in every culture. You just be like, look, dude, what is your deal? And that was.
But I do get why he was asking, because there are tendencies, right? Especially when you're in corporate.
But it is a tendency in corporate. But the thing was, it was everything. If it was anybody that was black or whatever,
like somebody cut me off. Were they white?
Yeah, they white. Yeah, everything was, are they white? And I'm just like, bro, it's really some bad people that are black. I know this is weird to you, but it is some people that just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and I get it, and I just wanted to see what is your thought on people having morals, or is it that we're so I'm not saying brainwashed, but we've so been brought up in a certain way that it takes up for the wrongdoing that we do.
So you're talking about black people in particular?
Yeah,
I think
that was my biggest thing, is because if I have a lot of people that says if something happened, well, if y'all partnership broke up, it's because of blacks don't know how to handle money, or her family just, is this way, and I just feel like, do you feel like it is? Because people think I'm mean, and I probably am, but I'm straight. I'm bottom line. When it's business, it's business. I don't care what you look like. So, but my friends are just like, but it just depends. Black people are not good with finances. They don't know.
Some of it is systemic. Some of it is because we don't have those dinner table conversations.
When do we say you knew this, or
You have to know if they know. So, for example, if your partnership broke up over a money issue, did you sit down with your partner before y'all got into a partnership to understand if she was financially literate, like if she had studied the craft, if she knows the business? Now, if the answer is yes to those things, then, you still fuck up, then that's a personal thing at this point.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. How do you
Because and what I want to say is some of that is systemic. So, for example, I didn't grow up learning about finances because my family didn't have money. Like, I'm from South Central LA. What, didn't nobody have money on 73rd and Broadway? It was about paying the rent, making sure your kids didn't get killed.
I'm sorry.
Like, so for us, we weren't sitting around the table talking about assets and talking. I didn't learn anything about finances until I got to college. And crazy enough, so my mom was just like a lot of Black moms in America. She used my credit, had bills in my name, all of that. And so one day I pulled my credit report just because I don't even know why I pulled it, to be honest.
College.
And realized that, like, oh my God, this woman has all this debt in my name. So I go to my mom and I just realized, like, not only did no one teach her about finances, for her, it was a survival thing. Like, oh, my kid has this fresh slate, this fresh name, this fresh social security number.
And she's going to college, so they're looking at the bigger picture is that she's going to be able, by time, I think that in that notion, you're thinking, when I get to that point, I'll be able to systematically, everything will come out, work out.
I don't know if she was thinking that. I think she was just trying to survive at the moment. I don't think there was a lot of foresight or anything, but the same way no one taught her about financials, no one taught me. And I didn't learn until I went to the library and bought a shit ton of books and started reading.
Well, I was always financed, and my parents, my mom, we were middle class, but we were middle class, and then in one part of our lives we were poor, but I guess I would say poor, but we still had everything, but we just, I can't. It never seemed poor to me. We talk about that. It never seemed like I was poor because I always had everything that I ever wanted. So, but at the same time, I knew about money, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know. The weird part is I didn't know about food stamps. I didn't know at that time they had the food stamp. I don't know if they had it in California.
Oh, the books,
the
yes.
The colorful thing. Mm-hmm. And my grandma gave me this, and I was like, "What is this? What is this?" But I get what you're saying by a system at
So that's the difference, right? So say you and I never learned about finances, right? But you and I enter into a partnership. Well, you come up from a family where you had what you needed, right? Like there was very little sense of scarcity. You may have talked about money with your parents. Mm-hmm. I didn't. So the way I handle money is going to be different than you. And so that's why I'm saying, like, some of it absolutely is because, like, systemically we just don't have time to have those conversations, and a lot of times that information is not passed down because our parents don't have it.
And when you say that now, I think about when you have a kid, would they be different because you're going to instill that in them?
If I had a child, number one, everybody knows I would send my kid to public schools. We talked about that. We talked about public school on the other show, but my kid would be privileged by way of having a mother who's been around the world, who can introduce them to things that a lot of the...
So she would be different. So,
would be different, but at the same time, I would ask my kid to, like, hey, you be a light, right? Like, if there's someone around you that doesn't know something, don't be an asshole, like, oh, you don't know. No, just help, right? Where you can, because you have the privilege of being able to travel and to live in a nice neighborhood where you don't have to worry about, and so yes, like I truly, and I don't have kids, but even my nieces and nephews, like a lot of what I do, when I take them places or I bring them out here, is to show them something different than South Central, because that's all I knew growing up. I didn't know anything.
And that was the thing that it was so funny. I was at my cousin's house last night for my nephew's party, and she had did a thing for giving coats to the homeless. Well, one of her friend's daughters had went and bought stuff with her mom. Mm-hmm. And she brought Tide and bleach, and the lady was like, but where are they going to wash their clothes? Because they're homeless. And the question she asked the little girl was, have you ever seen a homeless person? And she had. She was like, no. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time we took our nieces to West Dallas, where we're from, and they were like, why are all these houses shipwrecked? Why are they all wrecked? Mm-hmm. So I think that both, you should know all of the pieces, but I think that I just always wondered with people who had intelligence and emotional intelligence, because you can ask, I always tell you that you have to know who you're talking to. What do you feel like do we always get a free pass because we didn't know, or is some things like you should know this, bro?
And then it's on those of us who do know, right? Like, so my whole goal with every platform that I'm on is
that's what y'all do. Y'all are informing. Y'all are teaching us. Y'all are teaching us in a way that y'all have watered, not even the same watered down because y'all are liquored up, but
and is
yeah, it is. But I'm saying that you wired down to where you are teaching us. I guess I've always been headstrong and to think that yes, my family is oppressed. Yes, we came from a generation of slavery. We talked about my family being sharecroppers and being still working as slaves. But it's at one time, these are things like you gotta, and I don't know if that's because my parents instilled them, you going to college, you gonna do this, you gonna do that. I don't know if that's what it is, but I feel like to me, when I see people that are not acquiring things, but their main reason why they're not acquiring is because either they say something like Black lives don't matter, or we still oppressed, or they don't want to hire me because I'm Black. And I'm just like,
and sometimes those things are true. I'm gonna be honest, sometimes those things, two things can be true at the same time, right? Like, we can literally have our cake and eat it too in this situation. Sometimes those things are true. There are still systemic oppressions out here. We know that. We see it in the news every day. We know this. But at the same time, y'all, there is this certain level of grit and tenacity and perseverance. And a lot of times people don't have that because they've been so beaten down by their situation and by what they see that, like, they lack the self-esteem to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna turn the TV off and go get in this book real quick. Yeah. And so the reason I think that it's funny, when I won the German Marshall Fellowship, in my interview, I talked about, I love that I was a bridge builder. Like, there was 2 crack houses on my block, y'all.
It was 3. Hey, I can beat you. I was in West Dallas the whole
but y'all
block.
Also had money though, so I'm confused.
Yeah, we did have money, but when I say we had money, like, my parents worked for the federal government. We literally stayed out there, not saying because we were rich, but because we stayed next to my dad's mother. But we still stayed in West Dallas. But we are people that always. Both my parents, we came from a nuclear family. They both worked. They both had great jobs. We had things that other kids were. Now, we had dealt with when my mom and dad separated, with lights off and things like that. But we had always had every channel on cable. I don't remember life without it. I don't remember life without cars and now, before my mom had me, now I want to say this, she had me when she was in her late 20s, about to be 30. She had my brother at a younger age, very younger age, and it was different for them then. But when I got it, they were in middle management. Yeah. So my brother will always say, and to get you where I'm saying what you just said, but y'all wasn't poor. My brother will say, I was the suburban kid. He said, you should have been raised in the hood. Yeah. If he was here today, he'd be like, she is not a hood kid. Do not believe her.
There's a difference between being somewhere because you want to be there and being somewhere because you don't have a choice. And we talked about that. Yeah, and like, I bought my house in Oak Cliff on purpose, right? Like, I could have gone to the suburbs, sure, but and even then, that lets me know that I have a sense of privilege, even in Oak Cliff, because I don't have to be there. Yeah. Like, when you have choices, like, that's the thing. So like, going back to the major point, like, you know, I think that a lot of people are dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, like, or disorder. They're dealing with, you know, a lot of the things that come from systemically what we've been through in this country. But at the same time, like, again, I was aware of all of that. My mother, even though my sisters are not like as pro as I am, my mom and I shared that, and she taught me how to be very proud of who I was. And that actually made me say, you know what, like, I don't have to stay here. Like, I don't have to, I could live 1,000 different lives by reading 1,000 different books. And that took me elsewhere. But I think people like you and I we have to operate in grace with folks who haven't gotten there yet, who still feel stuck, who still feel like their lives are in the hands of the system and of the man. And I'm not saying that those things do not impact our lives, because anyone will tell you that they do.
And I say that, you know, I will say that sometimes I have to remind myself, because sometimes it hurts me, and I don't look at it as me being, I'm better than anybody or nothing like that. But I have always been like a go-getter. Oh, I can't do this, so I'm gonna go work here. Or I gotta go work here. I've worked 3 or 4 jobs. I worked at Neiman Marcus being a teacher, busting here, busting butts here. I've worked at QT on the side doing it. And I just feel like sometimes I look at some people and it makes me feel sad because it's kind of like that they don't see the same opportunities. And maybe, like you said, I've never looked at it to say that they may not see those opportunities. Just because the way that they were brought up, they may not. Because
they may have never been exposed. My mom kept
us in a book, and I think that's the biggest thing is when you read of other places and other things, it takes your mind a different place where the struggle is, I will say that when the struggle is something simple as trying to get food every day.
That's what you're focused on. You don't have time to do the thought labor of, oh, what's the next book I'm going to read or where am I trying? And Gabe, my co-host, says something once, and I always remind him of this, but it was probably one of the most profound things I ever heard him say. But he was talking about, at the time, this was right after George Floyd, he was talking about how those of us who, try to educate people, like, everything we say isn't going to hit a person, right? Or the person that we want it to hit. But his thing is, we're throwing darts. That's the point. We're throwing darts. And at some point, that dart is going to hit somebody, whether it be a grandmother, a cousin, whatever. So for people like you and I, who, we've somehow figured out this, as much of it as we could, right?
Yeah.
And imagine if you just threw a dart that said, hey, friend, I know you don't feel like you have a way out, but hey, read this article. Read this book, or just planting a seed of saying, like, hey, be delusional. Imagine where you want to go and do one thing a day to get there. And literally, though, you never know who that dart is going to hit or when it's going to hit them.
And that's why I came. That's why I like our show, and that's why I like you and him as a human. But as me as the same thing, I feel like that's one of the things I want to do in my show is not just be able to get people who are chefs, but everybody, and every time I always try to help people, and even with, and I'm not bringing it back up, but even with helping with my partnership and things like that, if I see that if I have $50 and you need 25, I got you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
because
it.
I feel like, and it's not because I know some people do it for the blessing. I do it because I know it's right. And I want someone to do me like that, or my nieces like that.
And there you go. At some point, somebody may have given you 20, or you may need $25 in the future. And so,
and just people. And I always tell my friends that I think the biggest thing was for me was leaving some people behind and start finding those one thing what I saw on Instagram is use your mentors, their cheat codes. And some people that a mentor does not have to be somebody how to do that it could be somebody that you rocking with or you see every day. Like I saw you at the tribe, running with the tribe, and I'm like, this girl is dope. Like she got, and just feeling that vibe, and then meeting your friends, see, okay, they on a mission. This girl's opened up a candle shop. She's doing this. Sitting there with people who are game changers, going to
you find your tribe.
Going to Gabe's think tank. That stuff was like, I was, and I told everybody I know, hey, they got think tanks. They got all this stuff where people are sitting here giving out ideas of what they're doing, and then you can be like, oh, this would be a dope way to do it. Not
with liquor and hookah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
right.
You can't really beat it.
Right. But no, the greatest thing that they ever did was him at Joe did that spades night where we were talking about it. We're playing spades, and we're also talking about business and things that we're doing. And
you can make it a cultural affair and still find ways to like bounce ideas off of one another.
Yeah.
And what I love about sessions like that in particular is everyone is willing to give feedback. So you never know who's in that room. People, Marlissa has a show, like here it is. And you never know who's going to be in that room.
And exactly. You never know when you're going to see them again. You never know in life or who they really are, because a lot of times I have been somewhere, because I never meet a stranger. I'm always somewhere talking, and I sit for real. I get them, I see them again, and I'm just like, oh my God, that was you? Because I don't look at people what they can do, but I also listen to the knowledge that they give, because you just never know where people are. And I always think that is the biggest thing, is people trying to keep it real, keep those same friends. I'm like, I'm not saying I ain't with the Drake, no new friends. I'm with people who are going to make me think, make me grow. If we're stagnant, then we can't go nowhere.
That I was literally, and I've when I really got serious about being on this path of becoming like a commentator and I realized that like you can't take everybody with you, and that's just real. And I'm not saying that you can't be friends with people, but there are going to be times where it's like, if you're not coming over here to set your laptop up and we can co-work together and bounce ideas. I'm not trying to be out in the streets with you all night.
And that's what I said. I think the funniest thing I say, and it may not be funny, but I always say, you know, people always say, Harriet Tubman didn't take everybody. Some people had to stay. Moses didn't take everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Everybody not, and not saying you're not ready right now, but maybe you'll get it in the future. Like, you know what? They really want some dope stuff. When you said I'm leaving corporate America, I was like, what? You got this big old job in my mind.
Big old job.
This big old job. You ain't, you know, and you just finna walk away. And to me, that was like so dope to be able to get your freedom, your thing. Because a lot of us, not saying we have a slave mentality, but we're okay with being kept.
Oh no, I knew so I come from a family that as soon as I got my first corporate job, they were, how much you making? And they was so excited when I left that job. They were like, you don't leave no good job.
Right.
And then I got a better one. And then I left that job. And you don't leave. And then when I left this one, though, everybody in my family was like, leave her alone. We done seen her flip some shit at this point. Right. I mean, I feel like I had proven myself, but you're right. Like, we are probably raised by people who believe that was the safe route. But in our generation, surpluses, layoff. I mean, IBM just announced a big layoff this morning.
Yeah, but you see Amazon laying out, and then
Google, Microsoft.
But and my thing is that people, I think that people that when they get I look at their age group. My parents are baby boomers. My parents are baby boomers. They're known to work. They're known to keep stability because their parents may not have that stability. They were going through racism where they couldn't be nothing but a housekeeper or a typist, you know, or whatever. And you know, and my great grandmother, not the one that worked for the county courthouse, but that was my mom's dad's mother. On my mom's side, my mom's mother's side, my mom's mother. She always wanted to be a teacher, but she only could do was clean Hockaday, you know, and for girls. And so my thing is that to see that makes me want to say, I'm going to get this job, make my parents proud and stay. Now, my niece is different. That girl will wake up tomorrow and be like, I don't like the vibe, I'm quitting. That is the new generation has
Gen Z don't play that game.
No, but you know what? No, but you know, they have on the news, the new generation, I guess it's Z, whatever. They are just like with vibes and waves, mental health, and
there are children, so why wouldn't they be? Why? Imagine how all the things that we saw growing up, right? So I think we're instilling in the next generation. College is not a 100%. A corporation is not 100%, and so what I've been telling my nieces and nephews, like, decide what you want to do, right? What is the thing that you love, and start going down that path and work vigorously at it, right? To where you eat, breathe, and sleep that thing. And by the time you're my age, you got a whole career that you've built for yourself that no one can take from you. Yeah,
and I always tell them, my nieces, we always keep them in things just like us. And my other niece, she's like top 10%, but she, you know, the funniest thing was she was number one in math in her school in her grade level, and they had her like, what is her occupation? And we read it, and my sister was like, it was like dog walker. And she's looking, Scholar's gonna be looking I know she's gonna look at it because she's just all my nieces look at it, and we were like,
best dog walker in the world.
Yeah, we didn't want to say anything because we didn't want to crush the spirits. But you know, she wants to be a veterinarian now. But at the same time, it was just kind of like, but you know what? It's people. I looked it up. It's millionaires walking people down.
But I think as parents or as mentors, aunts, whatever, it's important for us to take those cues from our youngins around us, right? Like, you know, one of my nieces, she has shown interest in art since she was a little girl. And so now, Sam, you've met her. She's about to be 18. She's a senior in high school. She's about to graduate. And Sam and I sat down and talked like, okay, what's the plan? She is going to pursue her art, and I love that. Yes. Because it takes her focus off of things that are probably not going to really serve her, and it puts her in her craft, which she's already really good at. Yeah. But imagine not having to spend 8 hours a day at school, and now you can put those 8 hours into your art.
And I think that's what's dope about it, is that they can. Like my other niece is a Lego. I read a book about it was women finding your true treasure. It was something like that kind of name. But the first chapter. The first sentence caught my eye. Have you ever realized when you're a little girl, you want to be a princess, you want to be whatever it is you want to be as a little girl, why now you're not even that person? What happened?
Somebody crushed that dream.
Yeah, and you know what? It made me cry. The whole first chapter made me cry because it was so in depth, like thinking of how you had the world, you could be whatever you want to be, and now you're broken, you're not, and it's just like, what in life? And that's why I try to keep instilling my nieces, they can be whatever they want to be. One of my nieces, she's a Lego queen. I wish she wasn't, because Legos are so hot, but she's a builder. She's a hand. She's a builder.
I saw somebody play a working guitar made out of Legos.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah,
so
that's
cool.
her. She put, when we buy, it don't matter what size we buy, she's done like a day. She can build anything up, and we just want to be able to, I want them to be able to be fearless. And that's one thing I told her. She's a basketball player now, and I told her, I want you to be fearless and not have those things that I have, be nervous to make a mistake or to do those things, but to get out and be great. And I think that's what generation, even though they get on my nerves, this generation, they, as a teacher, they have the mentality of, anybody 25 and under have that mentality of mental health first. Health first.
Yes.
Then,
because they struggling with different issues than we had.
Yeah.
We wasn't doing active shooter drills in school.
No, we did one Friday. And I was like, we did one yesterday. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
But what makes them unique is because they can be weird. They can be, and people, y'all see this anime in here. I don't want the producer to get on my head. But, back in the day.
These pop figures, I got them in my house.
But I don't know anything about
Weird
anime.
Kids United, all right?
I don't know anything about this. But I do know is that when I was in high school, I knew about Dragon Ball Z, and my brother my mom would buy the Japanese VHSs, and we would have to look at it because he's the oldest. But I do know that these kids, there's no popular kids, which I think is dope. There's no popular kids.
They're very accepting. I do journalism work at 2 high schools in Dallas, and you're right. Like, I literally watch, kids who, when we were in high school, would never have crossed paths. Right? Their circles would have been different.
It's like Jock sitting with the nerd, and it's typically the Breakfast Club, but the whole school. Yeah, everybody hangs with everybody, and I think that is different from us. Where when I was in high school, they had the jocks. You had
the pretty girls.
And that was it. You had that, and I think that's what makes. I think that will make the society is dope as well, and that's why you don't get it. That's why I don't think that some of this rhetoric that McCarthy and them are pushing is going to work, because the society is a little bit different. They're still old. Their mind is old school. They
don't understand that the generations have changed, and we're not going for that shit.
That's why I said Trump whole mantra didn't work, because he was looking like in the 60s and the 70s, and that no longer exists.
It's a different voting block. My niece is about to be 18. She'll be able to vote in her first presidential election, and so they got to be real careful with how they campaign.
I think the Republicans were trying to be with the McCarthy hearing, like, look, we may need to go with something else, because this is going to kill us in the end.
Oh, it's dying. There was me and Gabe actually covered it either on last week's show or the week before that. Millennials, there was a study on millennials, and usually in past generations, as you get older, you become more conservative.
Yeah.
Millennials are going the other way.
Right.
Like, we are actually becoming more liberal as we get older because of the experiences we've had. And I just think it's interesting, and it's going to be even worse for Gen Z. So the GOP better figure it out.
So do you think that this is this generation is silent revolutionaries?
Our generation?
Yeah.
I don't think we're silent at all.
I mean, not saying our generation, but the new younger kids.
They're not silent either.
I'm saying silent in the sense of they're not necessarily out here protesting every day, but they're changing the way
they have a different way of protesting.
That's what I'm saying. It's not when I say silent, I mean they're not outside. They're changing the way the economy flows.
100%.
Yeah, and I just 100%. Feel like that.
How jobs work, all of that.
Work. Yeah. And now, you know what I'm saying? Now colleges have to have mental health. You know what I'm saying? Things that we didn't have.
Look, one thing I did want to go back to, and I think that I probably learned this from Gen Z, is for us, for millennials, right? You talked about our dreams being killed and why we didn't become what we wanted to become when we were kids. One thing that somebody told me a few years ago, and I will never forget it, she said, you literally have to believe that you are the thing that you want to be. And she was like, when people ask you what you do, tell them I'm a writer. Because at the time I was still in corporate America. And she was like, start telling people what you are. Start telling yourself what you are. And when I tell you, like, where I am now is the affirmation that I had for myself 2 years ago. And so one thing that I spread to everybody who feels like, damn, I didn't become what I wanted to become, be fucking delusional.
Right.
Believe it so much in your head that you operate every day
and I think,
like you are where you want to be.
I think what's funny, I heard that same kind of speech from Issa Rae. Hers was, she was saying who she was, you know, and she said, I started learning when I kept saying I was the awkward girl. I was the awkward girl.
That thing, yeah.
You know, I was that who that was. And I think it's funny that you said that you were who you are now. Years ago, about 3 years ago, when I didn't believe in all this, I had this ideology because I've always spoke things into existence. Like, I'm gonna do this and do that. But my friend was like, I think you're gonna be big on social media and all this and stuff and do it. And I was like, no, that's not. I'm just gonna be a teacher and, you know, whatever. And he was like, no. And then I started to believe it and start getting the mantra of, you know what, I'm gonna stop saying I'm just a teacher. I'm gonna say I'm this. And that, but again, that came from the think tanks when people were saying what they did, what they do. And I'm like, and then they'll come back and be like, nah, I really am I'm a high school math teacher, but this is who I am. That's just my job. This is who I am. And so I think that is big for people to say now, to say those affirmations. And I'm doing this thing with Sarah Jakes. Her page is called Woman Evolve.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's about self-awareness, and it's about literally commanding who you're going to be.
That's it.
Knowing your triggers and knowing how to fix through your triggers.
That's it. And
being able to keep going. Even though I necessarily wasn't a fan of her father, but her stuff is just like phenomenal for women. Just pushing. And because women, we're so many layers, we can get lost in a layer. We can get lost in certain type of spaces. And to be, you know what I'm saying? And you were speaking these things, we were on a track when we were talking about your mom. You know what I'm saying? You were just like, I had all this stuff going on, but then my mom was sick, you know, and then these are all the aspirations you had, and to see them come into life. And then my friends to see me and text me and say, hey, I remember you said all this last year, and I didn't write it down. Like I told them, I'm not writing stuff down. I'm just building off whatever God gives me. Whatever the universe throws out here, I'm with it. If you want to do it, when they call, I just said, hey, I was apprehensive, and then I had a whole plan. It's gonna be Texas Tea. It's gonna be this, and it's gonna be this.
And I believe in writing things down too. Yeah. Like I gave a good friend of mine a journal the other day because she had kind of been playing with the idea of leaving corporate, and I want to do this. She wanted to start a clothing line. That's where I am,
Lord, praise it.
And I literally gave her a journal, and I wrote in it. I was like, you can literally have anything. You can, if your mind can build it, you can have it in reality. And I was like, write it down from the timeline to the amount of money to what you have on to who's in the room with you. Like, and that's what I love about writing. Octavia Butler is my favorite author in the world. And what I loved about her books when I read them as a kid, or her short stories, was that I could see what she was putting on paper in my head. Yeah. Like there were colors, and I could build the characters out. And so that's what I was telling my friends. And so when I want something in my life, that's how I go about it. Like I am very detailed in the way that I think about where I'm going, and even the people who are going to be at that award show with me, right? Like who's in that room with me, right? Right, but what they got on.
But I think that you hit on the nail. But you have parents. I will say this, and I'll say this 1,000 times. You have to read. You have to get your kids to read. My first book was the Boxcar Children, and because it was a series. And my second grade teacher, who is still my friend, Miss Ann Anderson, she had us to close our eyes as she read to teach us how to visualize. Yes. And then we all drew the characters. And she would turn off all the lights, she would read it, and we
that's an amazing exercise.
Yeah. We drew it, and everybody's characters look totally different.
That's it. That's the beauty.
That's the beauty. And that's when I fell in love with reading. I will always say that I fell in love because I could read, but it made me want to go buy books. I read comics. That's why me and my brother, he didn't like to read as much, but he loved comics. So, but we all read comics, and I'm still a reader. I go and read and get backgrounds of stuff or why things are. I want to know, but I like it because I can identify things and I can create things in my head. Yeah. But people, I think that's the only thing that kids are losing. Yes. Is that ability to be creative, because that's a monster. When you can go down, if I can close my eyes right now, and that's why I get mad at movies, because sometimes I don't go look at movies because I've created these characters in my head, and especially
a movie that remakes a book, and I'm like, oh no, ain't did that's not how she was supposed to look.
Right, that's how she was supposed to look. I didn't create her in that manner. Did you read chapter 2?
Yep.
You know, and so that's I think that is the biggest thing. Is that's when at second grade is when I definitely fell in love with my mind.
That's beautiful.
And I always had an imaginary friend. Don't laugh at me, y'all. I had an imaginary friend for a very long. I could turn them trees. If the wind was blowing, it was a crowd, and I was a performer. If it fell, it was dollars. If I would make it into money. And then if it was rainy, I would turn it into collard greens because I had that kind of imagination. And so I feel like, and that's what I love about my nieces. They still have an imagination.
Reading it's like lifting weights for your imagination. It is. Like it really is.
And I think that some kids don't get that because sadly their lives are taking a sharp turn. Mm-hmm. And I feel like even if you don't have, I think that you still take your kids to the library.
But that's what that quote means, right? If you don't read, you only live one life. If you read 1,000 books, you can literally live 1,000 lives. Yes. Before I ever got out of South Central, I had traveled all over the world through books. I'm telling you. And so giving that, and my mom did that for me. So my mom got her degree when I was a little girl, and so she would bring all her college books home. She knew I loved to read, so I was literally reading at a college level before I was out of elementary school.
And that was us. Yeah, my mom brought those books, and we did the ITBS test and all that crap.
Girl, I had to write book reports in the summer.
I told you, I said everybody's getting. Everybody's having summer. My mom's getting these books because my uncle worked at that time at Prentice, the one who makes all the school books. And so we got the TOS test. I'm in the 5th grade, but it's for the 10th grade for writing. And so we were always commended. All her kids were commended and all of that because she said a devil's mind is, an empty idle mind. Yeah. Devil's workshop. And so she always had something going in our mind. It was always something. And so I can sit with the TV off and read a book and imagine, or I don't even gotta have anything on it. My mind will be going 1,000 seconds per minute, beats or whatever. And I just feel like that's the only thing that I hate the society and missing when I teach them.
There's so many other things though. They got their phones, the TV is on, there's we got Apple Music. So, and I'm not saying we didn't have those things, but we didn't have as much access.
We had a Sprint phone where you can clap. We had the Motorola where you can clap.
Yeah, I mean, you had the TV, but chances were the adults were watching it during the day. So if you weren't outside,
TV back then it would flip, and so my mom be like, Skinamax would come on. My mom be like, nah,
Skinamax, get out of here.
Skinamax, it'd be Skinamax.
That's soft porn.
We're soft porn.
No,
man. The funniest thing is that when I was little, the first time I ever saw like something that was it was soft porn, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do that for a living.
You wanted to be a soft porn actress?
I didn't know they were really doing it because somebody said they wasn't doing it, so I was like, oh, they're not really doing it.
Okay.
And then I saw, because I'm a nerd, I went and looked up, and they have like an awards, like Oscars for the porn or whatever.
Like, this is it. This is my future.
Yeah, and I looked at it. And I was like, oh, they really doing it. Like, even soft porn, they're still, And I was like, oh, I thought it was like they just kind of.
So you wasn't interested once you found out you had to do it for real.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Oh, no.
But shout out to the entertainers and the adult industry.
Hey, let me tell you something. When I did to the background, they make bucks.
They are entertaining someone.
Millions.
So
now that OnlyFans, I should have got on it, but the people were pouring the food on them, but I just couldn't.
Wait, tell me more. What's going on OnlyFans?
One of my friends quit teaching to pour food on her. And
on herself.
So this is the weirdest thing. The funniest thing is that the number one seller food that they liked was pork and beans. She would get like what we call a tin can. It's about 5 pounds. And she said I could have on clothes. I could have off clothes. And they really liked it when they rolled down my legs. I was like, and that's what
pork and beans.
Yeah. And
I thought she was going to say honey or syrup. Pork and beans.
Pork and beans. And I don't know what it was about it, but she said I did jellies. She did everything that was like sweet. Yeah. And she said one day she was looking at somebody else, and somebody else said they like pork and beans. She didn't believe, and she got all this money. And she was making, I don't know if she's still doing it now, but she was making almost 10 G's a month. And no nasty stuff. Literally just like a bikini and a bikini, no naked.
Fuck this sweater up, but
like she had like a little bikini on, and she was just pouring it down. And she said, I learned, her research was it's different genres because people's mind sensual.
Hey, hey, I posted something yesterday, like one day somebody's gonna catch your vibe and rock with it.
Yeah.
And whatever
And
your
you
thing
right,
is,
yes,
right?
right.
Like there is an audience for your thing. So
And
I mean,
that's what it was. And she but she said
yeah.
the only thing was that she learned is that she thought OnlyFans would be easy, but it's a
You got to keep
yeah,
creating
because
content.
creating content. So you have to wake up and make at least 3 videos a day.
Wow.
Or 3 videos a day. And she said typically it's still hard because you want to do other things, and then those people they're messaging you. You have the people that send you tips, so you have to give them a little bit more. And
I think any type of content creating is
hard. And
she
said
more.
She said it's not easy.
Yeah, no, I mean, as someone who has gotten really heavy into content creation, like I realize how much energy, how much time it takes. Because I mean, even just coming up with the idea, number one, and then you have to put that on paper.
Hey, I know.
Put it in, oh God.
Look, when I was doing it, just coming up with this podcast, I'm like, okay, now I got to make 2 specialty teas. Okay, then I got to have this. Then I got to get these kids and guests down. Then I got to do this. Then how are we going to get it was just so difficult to keep. And even with my cooking classes, always thinking of something to recreate those 4. When we do brunch, we do the 4 staples: eggs Benedict, shrimp and grits.
I love a good eggs Benedict.
Yeah, and we do chicken and waffles and French toast. But I do is
can I make a real quick request? An oxtail eggs Benedict. Can we figure that out?
We can figure it out. We can do that.
I feel like
do a braid because mine is with collard greens and
and
I do braids. I braise like a braised short rib, but I do braised beef. So I'll get a shoulder or I'll get a roast and I'll cook it down and chop it up and that's mine.
The green route times Texas tea. And we're going to make it a Benedict show. How about that?
Yeah, if we're going to make it a Benedict show. We can do it our ways. We can do a crab cake. We can do something with a crab. We can do something with a beef. We can do something. Yeah,
y'all look out for that. That's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
And of course, we're going to give you the history of all these things. We're going to talk about the economy and the politics. But yeah.
I think okay, so I'm going to do the section of the tea. I'm going to get the tea from you, even though we have no tea today. But it's still a tea. It's a play on words. Y'all, come on with it.
Girl,
we're readers. She's up here drinking. Yes, that's okay. Here, we always got drinks here. But do you think these are just when I ask you a couple of questions? Do you think that there'll be another Black president
at some point?
I
mean, I know.
Ready for one now?
Ready? I don't know if we're ever going to be.
With the speaker, the guy who should have been the speaker of the House.
You talking about Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in the House right now, so he would have to probably take a trip to the Senate.
That's what I'm saying. But would you think that he would? Could he?
I think he's a star. I think.
He's a star?
Yeah, I think he's a rising star. Wes Moore is another one who's a rising star. So yeah. I mean, I think we'll have another Black president. It's not. I don't think it's going to be our next president. Is going to be Black, but yeah. 100%.
Do you think Trump will be able to sneak in there?
I think Trump is going to have a hard time. He's losing his evangelical base right now because he's been a little too crazy. So Ron DeSantis, if you've been paying attention to him, he has been definitely dog whistling to his base.
Yeah. And
so I actually think that he'll end up getting the GOP nomination for the presidency. We're trying to figure out who the Democrats are going to roll out. Josh Shapiro and Wes Moore are kind of the two that I think the Dems are kind of pushing for. But I would be surprised if Trump wins the GOP nomination for the 2024 election.
Because that's in the communities that I'm in, they're always like, Trump to get back in. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. If y'all really listen to it, he's really losing a little bit of his. He's
losing, especially that Christian evangelical.
And those people he had.
He needs them.
That was to make America great.
Definitely needs them.
And they, even though that Musk reopened him back up on Twitter, I don't think it's going to help him. I think that, I don't think that that's going to be a major factor.
Well, he's so tied into Truth Social right now that he said he's not going back to Twitter. But if he's serious about campaighing, whoever his campaign manager is,
they're going to go back.
Because he has too many followers. Like the platform is too big for him to ignore it.
No, he is. That's what I said. I thought all that was bullcrap when he said it. Because I was like, he's going to twinkle back on there. He's just not going to do it right now because that would be even more hurtful.
You look like you crawling back if you come back right away.
I said, Dobbs, he knows he can't just jump right back in there. All right. So, what do you love that in Texas that LA doesn't have?
What do I love in Texas? Fall. One of the prettiest things in my opinion about the South is the fall, the colors. The trees changing. In California, we got palm trees. Like you may have some other stuff going on, but you don't truly get like those pretty, like Oh, just
I wouldn't even
beautiful
thought about that
oranges
either.
and browns and reds. Like, I swear, every time fall comes around, I fall in love with Texas as a whole because it's so beautiful to
Yeah.
look at. Yeah.
It is. I would say that my drive to work in Waxahachie is so rural, so I see nothing but cows and people on horses, and it's a black family that has like they have like 180 acres. It's a
That's
lot.
amazing. Yeah.
And they're on, but it's beautiful. The sunset rising in the morning. It's a
gorgeous.
drive.
It is. Yeah.
Going that way is just beautiful. Who's your favorite rapper?
J. Cole.
Okay.
But I love Andre 3000 too. Everything that man touches is gold.
Yeah.
But I love lyricists, so
Okay,
like you'll never really hear me say.
I love that he said they on that remix of Rich Boy. And he said they call him Roto Rooter. I'm like, it's just his lyrics are just.
I mean, like his wordplay, the way he's able to like take control of the language. I've always had like a love for him.
And Lil Wayne, to me, I don't care what nobody say. Whatever he is now is him. But their lyrics, what they say, and you go back and laugh, you be like.
Jay-Z is another one. I love the wordplay, and that's what I love about Cole.
The Blueprint is my favorite album of all time. One of my favorite albums of all time. I love J. Cole too. I just like him because I feel like his wordplay, but he's also so real.
Yeah. And one thing I've always loved about J. Cole is he is us, right? He's the person that can go back to the hood, but he got these degrees under his belt, so he can move seamlessly between these worlds. I think that's important for our people because you can go get the game from over here and bring it back.
You should be in you're magical because you can do all these things.
But he's still, I mean, he knows what he knows. Yeah, I went to St. John's. I got these degrees. But he's always been about the people and like speaking for us. And so yeah, and I have to give it to, of course, Lauryn Hill, someone I grew up on, but Chika. Chika. She's a little younger than us. I think she was born in 97. So she's probably Gen Z, but another incredible, impeccable lyricist. I think, she took a hiatus because her mental health was was not necessarily failing her, but she just needed to take care of her mental health.
To go from I think to be a performer is one of the worst jobs and the hardest jobs ever.
I think you're right. I think it's a very hard job. So, but I was listening to her this morning in the gym, and I was like, dang, I forgot how dope this girl was. Like, so yeah. But I love music, period. So.
Do you like Bay music? You're from LA, but do you like Bay Area music? Do you like you like Larry June? Like, do you like? I mean, I have to ask this question.
Their music is so different than ours.
I know. That's why I have to ask this question.
It's so different.
It took me forever to like Larry June because everybody's on Facebook was like, and I was like, I ain't found one song yet. I found still blooming or whatever.
Send me some stuff. I'll let you know. But I'm a LA girl through and through, so
I always because like Texas, we like Houston, Dallas. People can say they don't like either one, but we in Dallas in 2000 we bumped Swisher House. I mean, people can say whatever they want to say.
So LA music, especially like our hip hop, like it has a certain bounce to it.
Yeah, it does.
And so like I remember being young and being able to know like, oh, this is a West Coast rapper just from the beat, right? Yeah. And then this is East Coast. So like honestly, Southern California and Northern California are almost two different states culturally.
I feel like Bay Area is Oakland, all that is more slow and like it's not like a bounce dance. It's more like we just kind of chilling on a Sunday driving.
Yeah, LA has a bit of a bounce to it.
Yeah, you can't tell Larry June from Warren G. Like it doesn't. It's all that same kind of. And it's not basic. I just say I do like.
They have their style. It's their style. So yeah, I was never really huge into like Bay Area rappers, but being from LA, of course I fucked with all the LA rappers
from both sides, and so I listen to both.
You got to hear both, yeah.
That's why I was just like, I wonder which one did someone.
And my entire family is Southern California, so we don't even have any people. I never went to visit Northern California until I was grown.
And the funny part is that Southern California, they only play their music.
On the radio and shit. Yeah,
on the radio. Growing up, and even when I was like in an Uber, whatever, the first 10 songs is all.
Oh yeah, we rep ours. If you listen to 92.3 KJLH, any of that, it's gonna be our people.
It's like Pac never died.
Yeah, it's gonna be our people
Pac never
for sure.
died. It was like, I'm like, I am sitting in the car bumping.
But think about it, right? Like I got all these local artists here that I can support. Like I'm gonna go for them first.
And it's
right?
just so weird because it's just like you're in Dallas, you top 5 100. But when I was in LA, and I tell you that when you go to LA is LA.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't no. But what I'm saying is they still pay homage because I heard Tupac like it kept going like, pew, pew.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like. You heard Tupac, Nipsey, and it's not a bad thing, but it's like these people are vibrant. I remember like, damn, Pac is.
Yeah, after Nate Dogg passed, like you heard a lot of his stuff, you know, and he was like the hook master.
Yeah.
Right? Shout out to Blast, who's kind of taking up the mantle, which is cool.
I feel like he was teeter-totter Bay Area kind of sound, Nate Dogg.
He was on a lot of stuff with like LA rappers though, so that's kind of why we called him like the hook king.
I kind of found him.
Yeah, but
so would y'all consider Snoop genre LA West Coast?
Yeah, I mean he was you know, he was death row. Like
he's death row, but his vibe is still chill.
It's chill, so I think that's the cool thing about him being from Long Beach. It gives you more of that chill, that chill vibe. Yep.
Yeah,
but one of my favorites is still him and Tupac. You know, like when
America's Most Wanted.
Like when Pac comes in, I'm just like, yo, this verse is crazy.
My favorite is with him is Sensual Seduction. It's because it's so fun.
Okay. I remember when that song came on. My brother-in-law was in love with that song.
I was in love with that song.
Oh my God. I thought it was okay. I was like, it ain't his best work, but all right.
Yeah, I think like, Murder Was a Case, and his first album, obviously, to me was Deep Cover was, I think, my favorite rap song by him. But I always wondered what do y'all feel about Bay Area versus? Because that's who's big in Dallas now. Everybody's talking about Larry June. So I was like,
now I'm not gonna front. Like I actually don't listen to the radio at all. Like I like to kind of hear more independent artists because I think they still have this really good creative integrity because they get to control their creativity.
Because everything else sounds just like everything else.
Yeah, and so I fuck with a lot of independent artists. Like a lot of the music platforms now have really good playlists of up and coming indie artists, all of that. And the great thing, and it didn't start with Chance the Rapper, but I think he was the first person who really showed us how far you could go as an indie artist. Yeah. And now we have some amazing artists coming out that are just like crazy.
I don't know, but I'm gonna say Dolph was indie.
Yeah, I mean Nip was indie.
That's my favorite rapper. But Dolph was my favorite rapper.
I don't think we really understood the business of music until Chance started talking about it.
Now I would say he would be more popular before that. Yeah, before he.
But I remember Nip like selling his mixtapes on Crenshaw, right? Like he was a hustler. Like I guess we knew he was independent, but never really connected the two. And that he was shopping these mixtapes. But
you don't think about it because. Sometimes it's just like it happens. You're like, oh, he really was that dude out here selling
$1,000 for a mixtape.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. But it goes to show, like, I mean, he said, like, I taught you how to charge more than what they paid for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so he taught you, like, that your artistry, your gift, whatever you're giving to the world, it's worth being able.
You don't have to water yourself down. I don't think I really listened to his music as much. I was honestly I did, but I listened to his interviews.
Yeah,
I think that those were more for me like entrepreneurship. Don't leave your man behind, and don't and teach to the people who don't understand and don't know.
But that goes back to what we were talking about, right? Like if you're a leader in your circle, it is kind of on you to say, hey, like here's the role we all play in the crew. Like here's the direction we're going. And he was big on not changing up the plan, right? Yeah. Like this is the direction. And so I think if you are a natural born leader, especially if you have a sense of humility, you really can lead people, to the well and really help them, like teach them how to drink, right? Like you don't. And Nip was big on that. Like he got a lot of respect, but it was at some point it became about respect rather than fear.
And that was one of the things that I was looking at. Drink Champs is one of my favorite podcasts. They were talking to Gangsta Boo, and she was saying they asked everybody that question: whether you have loyalty or respect, which one would you rather have? And hers was, I can't respect because you're not loyal if you have no respect.
That's right.
Basically,
that's right.
Which is true. So I think with Nipsey was like, let me show but he was more. I like because he was with people who were just like him. I know where you from in Crenshaw. I know what opportunities we have
That's
and
right.
what we don't have. Let me show you how we can get this paper.
And shout out to Big Sam, who is fucking brilliant and a genius. And I mean, we know, I'm sorry, Big Sam, Black Sam, like he stays out of the way, but his brain is. I would love to know what his IQ is. Like, he was his brother's keeper. One of my the things that kind of got seared into my memory as I watched his funeral was Black Sam walking next to the hearse, while they were taking him to his final resting place. And I'm like, it made me think because this was actually Nip got killed right after my mom got diagnosed. And so I remember thinking of that moment as I kind of stood watch as we were putting my mom into her final resting place. And I was like, that's kind of an honor, right? Yeah. To be able to be someone's keeper and to see them to their end. And so, and we know he was tore up, right?
Yeah, and we talked about that when you were going about Nipsey. And at the same track, we talked about yours. We were talking about you were getting back to ready to go down there to do all the stuff.
Yep.
And I just feel like that for that city to show love like that, and everybody doesn't do that because everybody's not loyal. Everybody's not respectful. Yeah. Some people are just there for your loot and too.
Yeah. It goes to show that, I watched Nipsey's funeral. Obviously my mom wasn't a rapper or a celebrity or anything, but I watched how many people poured into that. Like there was standing room only in my mom's funeral. Yeah. I remember being so proud of the life that she lived to be able to draw all of these people. And even when we were going to the cemetery, so it was a big processional. And at Inglewood Cemetery, my mom was on the hill. So you had to like go up a hill. So of course there was a hearse and then there were the family cars. And my grandmother looked back and she saw this long, crazy line of cars driving up that hill. And I remember my grandmother just cried. She was like, all of this for my daughter? Like I never knew. And it just goes to show that the type of life that you live.
And that's the way you want to be. I want to be... I want people to party. I want people to do all that.
Turn up.
But I feel like that I always want to leave moments with people.
That's right.
I always want to be able to put some gems inside of them and and just be able to give them something that they can't give back. Not something that just because you can give money to people and that doesn't mean anything, but giving them something that necessarily they can't give back to me, but they can give it to somebody else.
I think that's the beauty of your artistry, though, right? Like food brings people together.
Yeah, and it comes hard. Just like at a funeral, you're gonna have the food to eat with the family. You're gonna everything is revolved around.
That's
food.
part of our culture. That's why we take food to people, right? When they're mourning, like
but
I may not have no money to give you,
but let's get out of the tetrazzini. let's leave tetrazzini alone. Let's unknow that. Let's unlearn that in 2023. That's the first thing. I'm gonna make this tetrazzini. I'm gonna make this fried chicken and these canned green beans for baptisms and burials. Fried chicken and green beans and mashed potatoes.
You already know the repast was full of soul food.
Yes,
don't even do it.
I know. But okay, so if I gave you $2, your last $2, what would you do with it?
My last $2?
What would you do with it? What would you do with $2?
Honestly, because I'm lactose intolerant, I would probably get like my favorite person in the world and go to the hood and find an ice cream truck and get an ice cream cone and just be.
And I think I wish I could show that video that you had posted this summer of the little kids at the bus with the water going in the summertime and they were skating and they were dancing. And I guess because going out there in LA, we didn't see that part because you got to be in the house like, it's dangerous out there. Yeah. And to see that beauty of it on a summer at night was just everything. You know? So I think I love how you bring that in. I'm still gonna learn how to skate like that. I just can't, not right now.
That was I know what you're talking about. That was at the Juneteenth celebration at Lamar Park.
It was beautiful. It was so
they did
so
that. I gotta give it to Lamar Park. It was a beautiful celebration.
And you showed the night. It was the night with the kids, and they were dancing, they were skating, they were rollerblading. It was something. It was something to see. Now, this is your time, your tea to tell you about what you're doing next, about the Green Route, which is a dope show. And podcast and YouTube channel.
So I'm out here just trying to make it. But
she's so humble. My gosh.
Yeah, so we have the Green Route. So my co-host and I, his name is DJ GS. He is one of the dopest DJs in Dallas. But DJ GS is a really good friend of mine, and crazy enough, before we started the show, we would literally sit down and be drinking and smoking and talking about politics. Yeah. And so a lot of our friends was like, yo, y'all need to make this something. Like, this is good. And so when I left corporate to pursue my writing full time, I sat down with GS, and we came up with the concept of the Green Route. And so the entire concept, we always shorten it to politics, liquor, and cussing, and it is all of those things. But the goal is to do the thought labor that our people often don't have the time to do. So we look at people who are working these crazy hours, and by the time they get home, they just want to turn on Netflix and just kind of veg out, right? And so the Green Route is something that they can turn on and get headlines, get updates on what's going on in the world. And it's big for Gabe and I to not just give people the what, because a lot of people just go repeat the what, right? Yeah, like, this is what's going on in the news, but they don't have any history. They don't have any deep understanding. So we give history, we give the why, we give the how. And the thing is, if you teach someone something through a story, they're going to remember it wherever they go. But if you just give it to them in rote memory, that's why our kids are terrible when it comes to like standardized tests, because of the way things are taught. So we tell political stories, and we make sure that our people get, an understanding of not only stateside politics, but what's going on internationally. So everything from what's happening in Israel with the Palestinians to the Ukrainian war.
Because the U.S. just sent some troops.
We sent tanks. We sent tanks. So Germany just sent some tanks. So the U.S. was like, all right, we'll send some. But even understanding why there was a holdup with sending those tanks, right? Understanding like geopolitical landscapes and the fact that these countries.
And y'all, they tell you in a watered down. Let me say this. She is using big terms right now, but they tell you it is like at the end of a party when everybody's mellowed and chilled out, like I just told them before. And they are telling you things that's on their mind, but that's really happening. Yeah. And they tell you in a cool way, in a funny way.
Hey, it's literally politics, liquor, and cussing with your cousins. Think about after the party, you and your cousins are outside, trying to get in the car, because it takes us an hour to say goodbye every time we getting ready to go.
Right. Like I'm about to go.
It's that conversation, right? And so I'm super excited about the growth of the show. We record on Fridays, and so we do 1 episode per week. We might try to up that to 2 now that we may have a producer and a studio to work
dope
with.
Producer over
Shout
there.
out to
Kitty.
Sour Kids Production. Absolutely. Yes. But yeah, when you look at the late night political commentary landscape, there really isn't anything like what GS and I are doing. And the good thing that I think about the show that can help it grow and will help it grow is that anybody can watch it. It's not just for Black people, but it absolutely is a safe space for people who don't really trust media elsewhere and just want regular people talking about real shit.
That's the dope part about it. I don't think that is that it's for everybody. It's not just if you want to know what's really, really happening in the world, especially in the U.S. right now. I think that they're really saying it. And I told my mom was saying that yesterday. She was like, after Twitter let Trump back on, she was just like, and she ain't even on Twitter. I don't even know why she was tripping. She ain't on Twitter. But she was like, I can't do this anymore. She said, I don't like the media. I feel like it's one-sided. I'm tired. Everything you had said, she was just like, and I feel like now that he's on there, everybody's pushing the same agenda. So I'm looking at the news. I was like, hey, you all should listen to the Green Route, if you ever get on Instagram.
But there's big money in media now. And so that's the thing, depending on who owns the station, that will help you understand why it's slanted one way or the other. And so neither GS or I have any political party affiliation. We are not, GS are both, and both of us are like, who is promising the things that we need most, and that's who gets our vote. Right. It's not about party for us. And so that's why we say it's for everyone, because a lot of times, like Fox News, we know what that's about. Yeah. MSNBC, we know what that's about. It's very few that are in the middle. And so we're having real ass conversations for real people. That's it. Yeah. That's it. So
I think it's dope. And then are you going to start, I know you're writing, are you going to But you know what? It would be great if you and Gabe would go and, or I would say DJ GS. If y'all would go anywhere and do like a live recording of your podcast. And that way people who add questions can say like, hey, you know what? When y'all are talking about this, what did that mean? You know, because 100%. I think that would be dope because some people don't understand really what's going on.
Yeah. So GS and I actually, we are doing a corporate panel for a company here in Dallas. I don't want to put the name out there just yet, but so we're doing that in February. And then crazy enough, a friend of ours, shout out to B Nation, who also has her own podcast and her own platform, but she reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, what if you guys partner with the South Dallas Cultural Center to do some live shows with them? And so it has actually come up that, you know, we could partner, say, with you and your podcast, right? Like, and have
we doing green
segments.
Eggs and ham. I'm gonna say green eggs and ham.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, so when you start doing those live shows, you can start pulling your partners in, to make sure that the community is aware of not only information but services, products, all of that.
And like we just did with the cooking segment, just dope things about knowing what products were brought over. What does it look like, and not just what we see all the time.
In the grocery store.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of that we see it, but the way we made it, necessarily you don't see it all the time in that soul food in that retrospect. So
that's real. So yeah, we have been looking at some live shows, and crazy enough, I didn't even think we were ready, but GS was the first person to bring it up. And in my head, I was like, oh, we'll get there when we get there. And then when B Nation called me, I was like, well, shit.
Right.
I guess we on our way there.
I think y'all on the way there. So I'm very happy that you came by here today. I'm happy that you and my producer hooked up, and now it's going to be maybe something, the goal or something.
We'll be sister podcasts.
Yeah, super podcast. Yes.
Cool.
And so I definitely want you to bring you back here, especially at the time when elections start back up. Anything that's major that happens.
Yes.
Because I think people don't understand, just like this last voting, we were low, the black community low turnout, and I think it's because now they don't want to be a Democrat, they don't want to be they don't want to be a Republican, and they're just kind of like, so let's not vote at all.
One thing that Gabe and I did during midterms, and it was actually really cool, and maybe we can think about doing it and combining politics, food, all of that. But we did a live watch, like a watch party for midterms. And so we were watching the key elections, and we were on live. And so maybe that's something we can partner on when the presidential election comes around. Because I do think that getting commentary from real people would be cool. Plus you can add all the other stuff in there, right?
You know, food, we make these mixed cocktails, you know.
All of that. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Vote and get drunk, whatever.
We can make politics is already entertaining as shit in America. We might as well have fun, you know, while we do it. So yeah, let's think about that.
Let's think about that. But we thank you for coming to Texas Tea.
Thank you for having me.
Wait to see all the amazing things that you guys do.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get in here and see what we can do by way of becoming your sister podcast. So.
Yes. But thank you guys. And remember, like and subscribe. And you guys have a great day. And I'll see you on my next episode.